The question is that the House to now adjourn. I call a member for Lawler.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, Deputy Speaker, like most here last night, I went from the budget speech to the budget papers, looking specifically for things that I thought I might find in this government's latest budget. The first thing I looked for, Deputy Speaker, was a commitment to the irrigators in my electorate, to the Werribee South growers, to match the state contribution and the stakeholder contribution on an upgrade to the Bacchus Marsh Werribee Irrigation District, Deputy Speaker, and I was sorely disappointed. A mere $11 million is required to ensure the completion of the complete upgrade, and the federal government should be prepared to make that contribution, Deputy Speaker, but no, it wasn't there. Now, to talk about our food bowl in Werribee South, we're 30 kilometres from Melbourne city centre. Our vegetable growers produce 85% of the state's cauliflowers, 53% of the broccoli, 34% of the lettuce for major supermarket chains. Deputy Speaker, this is a project that needs support from this federal government, and yesterday they failed to deliver that support to the growers in my electorate. Growers, I must say, Deputy Speaker, that have done an enormous job for many years now, for decades now. They do 4 crops a year in my electorate, Deputy Speaker. It is fantastic, resilient soil, but it can only take high salinity levels for so long. The answer is in an upgrade to the irrigation channels, to a replacement of concrete irrigation channels that are cracked, that are losing 40% of water through evaporation, Deputy Speaker. They have put up with that. They have taken recycled water in a shandy mix, Deputy Speaker. They have changed practices because of the high salinity levels. They need support now to get that upgraded, and this government has it within its power to deliver for those growers, and it needs to think about that. I did expect some commitments last night, given the national significance of our growing district, Deputy Speaker, and I am sorely disappointed, as I know our growers will be, that this government didn't see fit to match their contribution and the state government's contribution to ensure that we continue to grow the vegetables and we continue to have the employment rates and have successful businesses in that area, Deputy Speaker. There's a lot of talk today in this chamber about small businesses. Well, the small business growers in my electorate would like some love from this government, Deputy Speaker. Obviously, I've also knew already of the $22 billion cut to education, to the $22 billion cut to schools across the country, and I knew what that was going to mean to the 56 schools in my electorate. We're also already aware of the university cuts, Deputy Speaker, the $3 billion cut from universities. We're already aware that this government likes to kick kids while they're down, and in the process we're going to reduce the threshold for when loans would be repaid. Just more sad news for people in my electorate. But, Deputy Speaker, what I was really expecting to see in last night's budget, and what I'm most bitterly disappointed about today, is that they failed to deliver that centrepiece on housing affordability that they had teased the populace with over the last few months, Deputy Speaker. They did not deliver on the federal levers that could impact positively on housing affordability. And, Deputy Speaker, I represent a community that lives in a growth corridor. We know a lot about housing affordability. We are one of the affordable areas of Melbourne's outer regions where people can still manage to put together some kind of a deposit and get themselves into some housing, Deputy Speaker. But I laughed today at question time to hear that the plans are, or that the Treasurer thinks that $30,000 will get you a deposit into the housing market in Melbourne, even on the outer western fringe, Deputy Speaker. You can't buy much for $300 grand in the outer west of Melbourne. I can only imagine what $30,000 would get you a deposit on in Sydney, Deputy Speaker. So they have failed to do what they could have done, which is use those federal levers to actually really have a positive impact. Those plans that Labor put forward at the last election, they've failed to put that into this budget, and in so doing they have let down millions of young Australians who can no longer look forward to being part of the Australian dream, who have to make a choice now between their superannuation, between a university degree and the increased cost there, between a deposit for a house, Deputy Speaker. They have failed dreadfully the young people in this country in this budget, Deputy Speaker, as they have failed women, Deputy Speaker. The last thing I looked for last night that I thought we might see a glimmer of hope in, I thought there might be a report somewhere in the budget about the impacts on women. Again, this government failed in an area that had been highlighted for them to address.
Member's time has expired. The question is that the House